Supreme Court justices are hearing oral arguments over the potential TikTok ban. The app says it will shut down in just 9 days unless the Supreme Court intervenes. TikTok's parent company, China-based ByteDance, has been ordered to sell the app to a U.S.-based company or be blocked. The move comes as government leaders are concerned the app poses a risk to national security. TikTok has 170 million American-based users. Joining us now for more insight is tech journalist Shivani Joshi. Shivani, thank you for joining us. We're getting close here. And, you heard the Supreme Court is, it's expected to rule soon, but suppose that they uphold this federal law. What's going to happen?
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now, Sal. Arguments have passed a 2-hour mark, which is the amount of time the Supreme Court had allotted to hear this case. And I've been following the latest of the live updates coming out of the Supreme Court hearings. And here's what we're getting a sense of. First, under the questioning, the justices seemed skeptical of the argument that TikTok had violated the First Amendment right. One of the justices saying Congress is fine with expression, but not fine with a foreign adversary gathering information on 170 million people. So you're seeing some inkling that the Supreme Court is really taking to heart or leaning in the way of the interests of Congress and national security. What we're also learning from these live updates is that the Supreme Court has access to sealed information that the D.C. Circuit Court did not have access to. And in it is data showing that a wealth of information about the United States users can be accessed by the Chinese government, how the algorithm can be improved, and essentially saying that the company collects data. And even though ByteDance has said that it walls off data, there are examples where ByteDance and the Chinese government have surveilled U.S. journalists to get information about it. So really what you're seeing around this is a lot of concerns and a lot of weight being put on the national security interests, which is what the Biden administration is pressing.
Shivani, if I do have TikTok on my phone, what kind of information does the Chinese government have access to? For example, if I do online banking on this phone, or if I have other sensitive documents, let's say I'm sending documents related to a mortgage or anything, how encompassing is what the Chinese government has access to?
Well, as a tech journalist, as someone who talks and has children myself, one of the pieces of advice I give to my own children and try and take myself is, one, assume that everything that you are sharing on a platform, no matter whether it's TikTok or even Instagram, Meta platforms, or YouTube, is accessible to that company. There are privacy statements and governing laws in the United States that protect us to a certain extent. But anything you put on any platform, I think you should generally assume is accessible to the company making that, that you're using that application on. And so that rule of thumb not only applies to TikTok, but also applies to Instagram, X, and other platforms. And interestingly, in the live updates, we are hearing mention of access to this wide-scale information, not just being access to a Chinese company, but also a U.S. companies like Blue Sky, Meta, X. They've all been mentioned in the arguments over the last couple of hours.
Yeah, the reason I asked specifically, Shivani, is because, what I do on TikTok is one thing. What I do with the rest of my phone is another. Is there any blurring of the lines there?
I think you have to sort of, I don't know 100%, I don't know 100% what the walls are between an app and maybe the access to the information on the rest of your phone, for example. I think when you have software protections and things like that, whatever phone that you use, whether it's Apple or Android or Samsung, that tends to dictate the ecosystem. And so there are assurances and protections that these companies that own and run the software on the phone, I think, prevail. But I think the issue at hand is that there is mistrust and distrust of the potential of what an app by a foreign owned or accessible by a foreign adversary can have on a U.S. device. And that is the issue at hand, is that, yes, we think that there are protections in place and that the Chinese government can't get access to additional information, but can we be sure? I don't think so. And so that is what the issue is at stake here. And just keep in mind, we do have rules here. We have legislation on the foreign ownership of many industries in this country. It's not just, now we're tackling social media, but it exists in the media industry. It exists in the infrastructure industry. It exists in the baking industry. So what we're also dealing with is sort of an existential or a new wave question around whether or not these rules also apply to social media, which is a relatively new industry.
Tech journalist Shivani Joshi, thanks for all the insight. Thank you for joining us.
Great, thanks.